Smith. I am 21 years old. I am a college student, a junior at Wellesley College. I am a Africana Studies and Psychology major, and I am originally from Brooklyn, New York.
So how did you become interested in the Caribbean?
So my dad was originally from Tobago, and he immigrated to the United States, and there he met my mom and had us kids. And ever since I was just growing up, I always felt more connected to my mom's side of the family, like her African identity. So I wanted to come to the Caribbean and better relate to my roots and to the Caribbean culture that I always was like kind of like introduced to and experienced with, but not really a part of.
Lovely. How did you find out about this program?
So when I first came to Wellesley, I was introduced to Dr. Fitzpatrick, who is also from Trinidad, and she said there's actually a study abroad program here. And when I went on the website and I looked through all the different course offerings they had and all the different experiences, I was like, this is amazing. This is so cool. I really wanted to come and not just be able to take classes here, but actually experience Caribbean culture through this program.
What are some thoughts you had about the Caribbean before you arrived?
So before I arrived, I didn't really know much about the Caribbean. I think a lot of what, like I guess the stereotypes that was encountering were from other people who were asking like, oh, do they have running water? Do they have electricity? Isn't it really hot over there? And because I didn't know as much, I had to be like, I'm pretty sure they have running water. I'm pretty sure they have electricity. I'm sure the roads are fine. But again, since I didn't get to see it as much in the media, especially like there weren't any. The only movies about the Caribbean were like beach, sun, sand, and sea. It wasn't authentic to the actual Caribbean experience. So I kind of just went in with an open mind, not really sure what would happen.
Would you say that your experience of the Caribbean has lived up to your expectations, or did it change your mind?
So my experience, it went completely beyond my expectations. I really was blown away by the amount of different experiences that I got to have while I was here, and looking back on like all the different stereotypes that I witnessed from other people about the Caribbean, I could see where like they were misinformed and may have been misguided by like any like I guess limited ways of thinking about other like third world countries. So a lot of what I experienced in Trinidad was it kind of went against the judgments that other people had about it, and for the most part like I had no complaints about the basic amenities here, like the variety of different foods and like different activities that I could do while I was here.
Oh, what are some differences in culture that you notice between Caribbean culture and your home culture?
So since I grew up in New York, I was used to people just minding their own business and kind of like treating everyone as a stranger. Versus here, everyone treats each person, even if they don't know each other, as family and as like being a part of the collective community as opposed to just individuals just trying to make their own thing work. So I especially found that welcoming and very what's the word? Like I was nervous coming in because like, I didn't know if people would like judge me for not being from here, but I realized regardless of where I was from, they would treat me the same way, and they would offer help when I asked for it. So that was very like reassuring for me.
So, did you find it easy to make friends?
Yes, similar to what I said before with like the welcoming nature of Trinidadians, I also found it easy to strike up conversations with people, whether it was just like waiting in line for something or going like in between classes. It was initially I was afraid of making friends because I was worried like I'm only here for a semester. I don't want to like waste people's time since like I might not really be a part of their lives after a couple months. But having kind of like overcome that personal barrier to making connections has been very rewarding because then I've met people who, without them, my experience here would be a lot different. So because of that, I was very grateful to the open-mindedness of the people here, and also myself for being able to move past that and just make make new memories with different people as I went along.
Lovely. What are your thoughts on the education side in the Caribbean? How have your classes been?
So I did a little bit of research before I came here on the way that the education system worked in Trinidad, and I noticed that a lot of emphasis was placed on education as very important after the independence era because it would allow students to not see themselves as workers or like cogs in a machine, but as thinkers, as people who could make a difference just by applying their critical thinking and their ability to evaluate different scenarios to create a new future for younger generations. At the same time, while I do think that the perspective that Trinidadians have towards education has been very refreshing, especially like coming from the United States where things are more like you need to get a good education to get a job, to do this and that. I do feel some of that Western influence coming into the Caribbean with how students that I've talked to have felt really stressed out about their grades and about being able to get like enough of a good standing to stand out among like different job prospects and such. And especially because like the education system is a bit different to what I'm used to back at home. A lot of it rides on like one or two exams, which stressed me out also. But that being said, my experience with the individual classes was amazing. I loved all my professors. Everyone was so very engaged with and passionate with their teachings. So because I was away from the US, I got to critically examine it from an outsider's perspective and then also compare it with the Trinidadian society and how the different values of each culture like compare and contrast. So it's taught me a lot about like the way like before sorry the way like before I would be like a passive consumer or like a passive observer of how things are in the States. Now in the Caribbean I can really grapple with the implications of what the US is doing, especially around the globe, especially in the Caribbean.
What are your thoughts about the CSSN course? Do you believe that contemporary Caribbean studies give an adequate overview of Trinidad and Tobago and the wider Caribbean?
Yeah, so the Contemporary Caribbean Studies course was one of the highlights of my time here. I really enjoyed getting to hear from different experts as well on the different aspects of the Caribbean that I never really imagined I would have so many questions about. So an example for this would be the economics course, where I learned about the way that different structures in the Caribbean are kind of like a residual effect of colonialism. And similarly, I also learned about like religion and how that's also ties into colonialism. So a lot of these things I just didn't think I would be as interested as I became thanks to these courses. So yes, highly recommend.
Where did you go for your study tour?
For my studies tour, I went to Jamaica.
How was Jamaica, and what is the standout experience from the tour?
Yeah, so when I went to Jamaica, I was immediately in my mind. I tried my best not to be like a typical tourist, not just like taking pretty pictures, but actually being able to kind of like in my mind like compare and contrast like the things I saw in advertisements or again in movies to what the actual lived experience is like. And from that, and also the courses that I got during my time in Jamaica, I was able to once again find these answers to questions I didn't even know I had regarding different aspects of Jamaican culture. And two standout experiences for me were when we went to the Charleston Maroon Community Center settlement, yes, where we got to like kind of like see history in action and see how these the things I would read about in textbooks about like how emancipate people that ran away from slavery were able to create their own communities and survive in the land. And then similarly, a more modern day example would be of living history would be the Wadi Wadi Wednesday, where we got to see the birthplace of many different dance hall creatives and how they utilize this space to develop something of their own.
What are some of the most notable differences between Trinidad and Tobago and Jamaica?
So when I first arrived in Jamaica, I wasn't really sure like how to like I guess describe the differences that I saw. But after taking the courses and then reviewing what I already knew from before, I realized that a lot of it has to do with the history of each place. So, for example, the hurricanes in Jamaica versus how there are less hurricanes in Trinidad allow for the infrastructure to be a lot more different in terms of like road structure and even the way that the buildings are structured. Another thing I noticed was the way that the economy is set up, because Jamaica is more tied towards tourism. The way that like a lot of people gravitate towards more tourist centric spaces, like for example Otorios, or also like just even in Kingston, people were like more gathered towards places like the Bob Marley Museum than they were towards like these more public community spaces of Devon House. So that contrasts with Trinidad, where like people kind of just like go wherever they want to per se. Like they're not necessarily driven by like, okay, we need to go where the money is. Like they can kind of settle wherever they think is most fitting for them. If that makes sense.
What would you say is the greatest experience? Sorry. What would you say is the greatest lesson you've learned about yourself from your experience in the Caribbean?
Yes. So something I really put priority towards experiencing was my family, because as I said, my dad was from here, and recently I got to meet all these different relatives for the first time, and getting to be in that space made me realize how important it was to be a part of like a community where I could be kind of like not kind of like put into a box per se, but I could express myself and contribute to the environment in a way that wasn't like already predicted for me. It's something that I could come up with myself. So I really appreciated having that chance to meet everyone and to actually even go to visit the place where my dad grew up, and realize just how far he and everyone has come, where it's not just, it's kind of like I'm not alone in like this timeline. Like there's so many people that came before me, so many people that come after me, and recognizing that like my place in that timeline isn't set in stone. I could be the fun aunt that everyone loves, or I could be like the I imagine myself as an aunt, I'll be honest, but just knowing like I don't have to stick to a rigid way of being in a family setting or even just a community setting.
Last question. Would you recommend this program to others, and if so, what would you tell them?
Yes, I would definitely 100% for certain recommend everyone pack their bags and come to see this program and experience it and really live with this space, because unlike other very popular destinations for study abroad like Europe or even like other places in like the Western Hemisphere, I feel like the Caribbean has a very unique perspective on history and its contributions to our modern day society. So it's worth getting to hear from people who live here and see how the way that history has kind of like overlooked these perspectives, we can like be the ones to kind of like not make up for it, but like can we can like start to see ourselves in the way that the I'm not saying it right.
There's no right, you're fine.
Like, okay. Everyone should come here and recognize themselves in the way that people continue to live and continue to survive and find joy regardless of what is going on in the world. I think if you're looking for reasons to keep hopeful, to keep being hopeful and to find optimism, you should come here and see what people are doing day to day. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth.
Yay!
It's been great to have you this semester. You were a lovely addition to our program this semester. Thank you very much.
Thank you.